every child you have changes your identity. You're not the same mom with the first, you're not the same mom with the second. Every time you have a new kid, you keep having to be a different mom because you have to create this new identity each time in order to juggle them. You can't be the same mom because you need to adapt. And then by adapting, you have to evolve.
Welcome to After the Baby Sleeps, where we talk about all things after a baby's down for a nap or goes down for the night. For today, my baby is downstairs with his dad, which gives me some time to connect and chat with Jean, who is our next guest. Jean is a mother of two, and she is the founder and owner of Chialicious, which is a dairy-free and gluten-free chia pudding made up of simple, good-for-you ingredients based in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area. If you're curious and want to try some Chialicious, we will include her contact info below so you can reach out to her and stay up to date with where she is selling each weekend. Jean and I met in college going to film school. She was always my bubbly, happy, wise, and only other Asian female friend in film school. We bonded over many relatable conversations from growing up to relationship problems and even the gender bias used in the industry we were entering. Jean and I would meet up once every other month at a coffee shop and literally park at a table and chat for half the day or even the whole day. It was always a blast, and now I get to share her energy with the world. Jean, welcome to After the Baby Sleeps. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be a part of this podcast and your project.
Yay, I'm so happy you can chat with us and hear all about everything in your journey. But before we begin, where are your kids? Did they do anything today that stood out to you that you want to share with us?
So right now they're running around downstairs with their dad, and they're coming up the stairs right now. I didn't lock the door. Julian. Yep, you might want to keep this, I guess. Julian. Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah, they were downstairs. Now they're here. So there they are. I forgot to lock the door. But yes, they are here. And the dad, my wonderful partner, Thor, my husband, is with them at this moment. So.
Oh yeah, I remember Thor too from back in the day.
Yes. So that is the introduction of my children. They're not asleep yet.
Very cute. After the baby sleeps, we're kind of focusing on motherhood. My first episode was all about identity and how I lost myself once I became a mom. Share with us what your experience was like with pregnancy and motherhood.
Just to kind of, I guess, start out this way with a long story short, I did experience 3 years of trying to conceive with, unknown infertility. So it was really hard to even enter motherhood for me with my personal story. And so with that, after the 3rd year, we miraculously was able to conceive naturally. And it's my eldest, Julian, and it was a very healthy pregnancy, but it was really hard labor. I ended up having to do an emergency C-section after trying to naturally labor him for, I think my husband told me it was 10 hours. And so it was a very, I guess the most traumatic experience I didn't expect I would enter, because I think a lot of mothers that I've spoken with can relate. When you're a first-time mother, you have this idea of how you would like to choose your labor to go, natural, everything holistic that you want to do to make sure you labor a healthy child. I wanted that so bad. And the reason why I wanted that was, it was when I thought of my mom. My mom has 11 of us, right? And it was natural. And I thought, if she can do it, and she lived to tell the tale of 11 children, then who am I to not be able to do one? And so it really hurt me real bad when I had to do emergency C-section, just, for the survival of me and my child. And then after that, try to to move along the story, it was really hard because he had to go in the NICU. So then I didn't have that bonding time with him. So that postpartum depression and everything really hit real hard because it was, I had to go home without my baby. So that was really emotional for me. And, you know, after 3 years of trying to be a mom and then you can't go home with your baby, it just adds like another depth to that postpartum depression that most women experience. And so I think it hit me real hard. I was in a very deep slump. And I think it was hard for my husband to handle that too. So that was my journey with conception, motherhood, and dealing with the delivery of the child after. It was not an easy one for my first one. Second one was a different story. Second one's much more smoother.
Thank you for sharing. Do you mind telling us like how long PPD lasted for you?
I don't know. I think I'm not the only one who can speak on this. I think when you're in that slump, time is of no consequence. It just goes on and on and on until something just triggers it to stop. To be honest, I didn't know I had PPD. Like, I don't think woman knows because we're such emotional beings, that we're so used to our emotions, even like during our time of the month, that we feel like it's normal that we're gonna get out of it. I think I realized when I was in it was, to be honest, in my memory, the only way I know that I had depression was the way people looked at me. They had like a very soft approach and they were very gentle with me, and I realized that they could sense how I was feeling. Like it was emanating and they responded in kind. And I think back to that and I'm like, they saw what I was going through and could identify it, but I couldn't. And that's how I knew I was in postpartum depression. So I was very grateful for that. And I'm saying like it was my sister who I was really close to, like healthcare professionals who I didn't know, who were in the hallway. They would just see me and then be very gentle with me. And the nurses that took care of me. Because the second time when I didn't have it as hard, I didn't have the same kind of response. So that's kind of how I can identify through my memory that others could identify that I was going through some sort of depression. Yeah.
Got it. That's like a really good way to just share with other women too, right? Like if it's going to be their first pregnancy or second pregnancy, and like what you said, there is a slump that we all probably feel, and some slumps are probably deeper than others. So I think that's a really good visual or indicator or like example that maybe people can keep in mind when they are a mom. How was your transition from being a wife and a woman without kids to motherhood?
I think for me, it was easier than it was for my husband. And I think a lot of women can relate, is because I transitioned to it because my body already knew that I had to support my child. And so it was this natural transition. You know, I decided to breastfeed. So everything in my response to my child was natural because my body would tell me. I think it caused a divide in my marriage because my husband didn't respond that way and he couldn't understand it. Like, for example, he thought he could just like say, hey, I'm gonna go with the boys, I'll be out later. I'm like, what? I'm like, I just got cut open and I need help. You know, and so like it was these like realities that we both had to adjust to as husband and wife. So it definitely was a harder transition. I see that with my husband. I mentally was there. So then the problem that I had to solve was, how do we both get there? How do we get on the same page? And I think that was the main, when I think about it, based on your question, that's really the main problem I entered. Is like, how do I get my husband on the same page with me? I'm already there. How do I bring him there with me? So I mean, it's a journey. It's not perfect, but I feel like when your spouse knows he wants to be with you, or she wants to be with you, like when you have a devoted partner, they'll find a way to try to get there with you. Like, they might not understand you, but if they want to work with you, they'll find a way to work with you. And that's kind of how Thor and I had to adjust. Is he couldn't understand, but he wanted to be with me, so he had to figure out, like, how do I support her in the way that he could support me.
Mhm. Was there a difference between having one baby to having two babies?
Oh yeah, definitely. But okay, entering motherhood, I think I love being able to talk to other women because I think we all agree. Entering motherhood the first time is probably one of the hardest, because you lose that identity and it's a very jarring. But when you have like a second one or a third one, it's no longer jarring of the loss of identity. Like, you embrace it. And then really what you have to do is balance. There's no such thing as balance, but that's like the best word to say. Is like, who takes care of these kids while the mother's recovering with the newborn? And because regardless whether you breastfeed or not, the newborn yearns for that bonding with the mother. And so it's like this requirement, like a rite of passage for mother and child to go through that together. So I think that with the second one, the new challenge was, how do we handle both children and also keep the house running and keep our relationship intact? Then it becomes like a juggle of three instead of the two. I think that's where, like, when you have one kid and you're like, I could do this again, I think that's where it kind of tricks you, because you're like, you can do it because you're juggling with two, right? You're like, I got this. But then when you start adding more kids to mix, you're like, okay, all right. And then every kid's different. And I talked to this with one of my close girlfriends, is like, and she agreed with me. Every child you have changes your identity. You're not the same mom with the first, you're not the same mom with the second. Every time you have a new kid, you keep having to be a different mom, because you have to create this new identity each time in order to juggle them. You can't be the same mom because you need to adapt. And then by adapting, you have to evolve. And if you have to evolve, then you're changing, right? So I think that's the one thing I learned about having more than one kid, is that you have to accept that each time you have a kid, you become a different mom.
Were you able to accept those changes like willingly, or were they challenging for you?
I don't know if I fought against them. I think I went
Mhm.
into it without realizing it was happening. And then, like, whoa, because I think when you have these moments of depression or you have time for deep reflection, either one of those two, you start realizing that loss of identity. And that's where I picked up that the identity kept changing with each child through the clothes I kept. Like, I have clothes pre-pregnancy. I'm like, I'm just gonna lose weight and get back into it. Then I realized some of them I'll never fit back in it again. I'm okay with that. And then the other thing is, I realized even if I fit in it, I don't even like it anymore. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's too many changes. Like, so there are too many problems. Like, even if you can fit in it, you don't like it. The styles change, you don't care, you don't love it. Now, then it reflected your identity. So your identity changed for your clothes, your identity changed with what you fit in and what you desire. And that's where it just clicked. I'm like, I'm gonna keep changing. I gotta get rid of those clothes and just accept that the evolution of motherhood.
Yeah, that's well said. I would totally agree with you. And um I would say, like, in the beginning, I definitely fought it a little bit because I was like, I can get there, like I can lose it. And then eventually as time went along, I was like, no, I kind of like the new me, and I don't like that look anymore. Like, that was a
Mm-hmm.
different for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's talk Chialicious. How did your business come to be?
So I like to go in the beginning because I'm one of those people where, like, Those people that are like grateful for everything, like I'm grateful for the coffee beans and the people who picked it and the tree that grew in the seed. So that's how I feel about my business. I'm like, everyone likes to know like how I came up with the idea and how I started selling. But honestly, I like to go in the beginning. Like, obviously, the beginning starts when I went on that trip to New York with you. You're like, let's try this place, it's recommended, which, like I discovered there and everything else is like, okay. But then I brought it, I'm like, dang, this is good. It's called chia pudding. And then I looked it up and I'm like, it's really healthy for you and it tastes good. And the great thing that I can say, because I know you're familiar with it, is like the reason why I purchased it is because it looks like our tapioca dessert, Nava. I'm like, oh, it's bubbly and maybe it tastes good because in your head, if it looks like something you've had before and you like it, you think that's what it's going to taste like. And it did. It did taste like tapioca pudding. It was really good. Um, then we came back from New York and then I had it and I was obsessed and I told my husband this idea. I'm like, if I had it, this is how I would sell it. He's like, do it. So it was our trip and then my husband. And then I wanted to do it, but then I had 2 kids, and then you get those up and down with a slump. And I was probably in another postpartum depression because when like I said, I didn't know I was in it, but when I go back and think I was because I didn't want to do anything. I think this part of depression is your lack of interest, right, and your lack of hope. I just thought, like, I'm just gonna stay home and just breastfeed my kid and just be tired and be grubby. And my sister was like, she lived with me at the time, and she's one of my close siblings. And she's like, let's do it. We're going to do it. We're going to go and we're going to do it. And she was so firm that I believed her, like she gave me confidence and faith. And I was thinking to them, like, I don't know what she wants. When people want to help you, family or friends or strangers, it's like they want something. And I think that was her way of like showing me strength and love. Because in our family, common in Asian cultures, we don't just say like, I love you, I'm there for you. This is her way. And I always will be grateful to her is that she picked me out of the slump. I had my second child. She said we were going to do it, and she helped me and she held her word. And I only did 6 markets. It wasn't even a full season. And I always wanted to know if people would buy it. And after the 6 markets, they're like, I was one of like the top vendors there. Because the manager wanted me to come back. I'm like, okay, I'm on to something, right? And so that's how I started Chialicious.
That's so cool though, from seeing things go from an idea, right, to fruition is always super exciting. And then knowing that it's bringing you a lot of joy current day too, like that's pretty amazing. What about struggles? Like, did you enter any big struggles while balancing Chialicious and just personal life?
I think one of the main things that I struggled with going into it was learning how to make it from a couple cups for friends and family to like 30 to 40. It was a huge responsibility because if you mess up, that's a huge mess up. And you had to start over again and you had to pay for the ingredients again. So I had to really learn how to own up to my mistakes and resolve them in a short amount of time. And that was one of my struggles because I'm not like this anymore, but when I went to this, I was a perfectionist. It had to be perfect. And if it wasn't perfect, I would really cut myself down real hard. And through my sister's comments, because she helped me in the kitchen, I realized that about myself, that it wasn't healthy. Because she's like, you would just say really bad, like mean things about yourself. She wouldn't say like that, but she's, as a sister, when you're close, they'll say it more bluntly to you. And I realized like that's not a good way to talk to yourself when you mess up, right? So just being self-aware and how people respond to you and how you talk to yourself, I realized I had to be better. That was my struggle. I had to be better at resolving issues, and I had to be kinder to myself, and I had to be faster and smarter about it. Because one of the things that I learned about business is, when you mess up, people don't care. They don't care that you messed up and there's a story behind it. They don't care like a truck hit you and they couldn't get the delivery. The bottom line is if they don't get their product, the only thing they remember is they don't get their product. And I was very lucky that I had those 6 markets to figure it out. Because I was new and I didn't know what I was doing. So being able to figure out those struggles for a low risk low risk investment of 6 markets to figure out my recipe, my customers, and how to overcome issues. I'm very grateful for that, because then I just got better at my 2nd year and I just get better at my 3rd year.
Yeah. How were you able to balance motherhood with a business?
I think it's really through the support of my husband. And I know that, and I'm grateful to that. Like when you hear those speeches at the Emmys and they're like, oh, thanks to my husband, I was able to, it's so true, because it's we have the kids, and with his belief in the business, his like genuine belief, he's willing to take time back, to set time aside from his time so that I can shine. And so I feel like I can only really actually thrive in my business because he's willing to take a back seat and let me be the star sometimes.
I think like as a mom who's a newer mom, right? And I'm hearing you talk about this business, like I'm wondering like, oh, Jean must have like so much family support with her kids. That's how she's able to be able to pursue this career. Is that true, or what does it look like?
I would agree with that. So I do have a big family. So I'm a sibling of 11, and then in my area, in Milwaukee area, I have about 3 other sisters who live nearby. And so if my husband can't take them, then one of my sisters can take them. So it's been only like based on that. Otherwise, the children have to be with us, and then the children have to suffer if they're there all the time. So definitely having like that village that people call really contributes to the trajectory of success. If you look at other entrepreneur stories, there are stories, I don't know of a lot, but there are stories of women who did it without the village. So it's definitely possible, but it does change the trajectory, right? Is it smoother? Is it faster at the rate that you can build, your business? I don't think it should bar anyone, but it should be put into consideration. What the sacrifices look like when you don't have the village.
Yeah. When so let's will you share with us like what Monday to Sunday looks like with balancing your kids, your husband's schedule, and your schedule when it's prime season?
Yes. So I think, and just to kind of add to that, the success that I'm experiencing, I do find it amazing because everything I'm doing is 3rd shift after my husband comes home. And so it's been pretty amazing to experience this amount of success with the limited time that I get to even do all this. So my husband comes home around 5 because he gets up at 4:30. So it gets a 30-minute transportation time from him A to B to get home. Once he gets home on Thursdays and Fridays, I go to the kitchen. That's my kitchen night. And I stay there until I complete the amount of cups. It will vary. During peak season, I would say by myself right now, it takes about 5 hours per night just to make up to 180 cups. That's a lot. And then every Saturday, depending on what the fruit is, I do have to grocery shop either on that Saturday after the market or Sunday, or it has to be at least at the latest Wednesday. So I only really get like a 1-2 day break, depending on how you see that. So that's how it looks like. So, and it's on constant rotation because I'm rotating my flavors each weekend, and it's run on a rhythm like that. I like to call it like a rhythm.
You are balancing being a wife, being a mom. Why, like, what drives you to also show up for Chialicious and continue Chialicious?
I feel like it's a tug of war. Um, so, and I say this to my customers all the time. I show up for my customers. I think people, I don't know, everyone goes into business differently, but the way it starts is always passion. You're like obsessed with something, and you're passionate, and you want to share with people. That's how it starts. But what drives the business seems to be different for each vendor. You know, some people kind of chase after the dollars, some chase after validation that they're doing it. I think for me, I really love the human connection. It is such an unbelievable strength in a business that you see people as people and not as customers. You know, I'm not just collecting cash, I'm learning their names and I'm learning what they like. And in doing that, it benefits me in multiple ways. I'm learning how to connect with my customers, I'm gathering data, and my regular customers are the most, like, not just lucrative to a business, but they're the most valuable for feedback. I mean, think about it when you're a regular customer. You go to that place and they messed up that one time, you're like, what the heck happened, right? That's why I value their feedback, because I tell them, like, give me that feedback. If I'm not doing something right, I don't want you to not come back, right? Let's talk about this. Let's work it out. And that's how I see regulars, because that's how I see myself as a regular. Like, just talk to me, I'll tell you. And if you fix it, I'll come back, you know? And that's what keeps me showing up for Chialicious. It's my customers. I've learned to learn names if I see them often enough, and it's been very rewarding. I'll know like their dogs, I'll know their partner's name, I'll know like how much they order, and I get to talk about things other than their orders. You know, we get to talk about life. I get to see them as people. You know, they tell me I learned that they're teachers. They have students that ask them about what they eat. You know, it's like being able to connect with people is like the best part of my job. And I think talking to you, I think I realized maybe why. I'm like, you know, if anyone's a stay-at-home mom, you are starving for conversation. Maybe this is what's driving them. Like, dang, like I just made so many friends that also paid me for my business. Like, what a double, like that's like a double gift, right? Like you get two in one. Like you get customers and you get friends. So maybe that's why I feel really connected to my customers. And I check in on them. You know, I check on them and say, hey, if you didn't like something like this, let me make it right to you, because I want, you know, they're friends and their family. You know, that's how I want them to know them. And I think that's what, I'm sorry, that's like my long answer, but it makes me show up is like, it is a tug of war, because I really love my children. And also I really love my customers. And I the way I treasure them, like the way I see them, the way I treat them the same. I treat them as I see you, I validate you, and I see that with my children. So I feel like it's a tug of war. I don't want to let either down. I don't want to let my children down. I don't want to let them down. So I take it hard on myself to be present with whoever I'm working with at the moment.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it sounds like you're really passionate for both of them, and you make sure to put in the time for all of your hats, right? All the hats that you're wearing. So that's pretty phenomenal. And hearing you talk about Chialicious, like it definitely like you glow when you're talking about Chialicious. So it makes me wonder if Chialicious and pursuing like something that you're obsessed with, like really helped you kind of reshift that new identity of you.
I think it's this thing that mothers get into, especially when any mother decides to be a stay-at-home mother. It's like the clothes thing. You have to redefine yourself and find a new identity. And so Chialicious for me is like the new Jane, you know? And so it's like I found something new I'm really good at, and I love it. I love that I'm good at it. I love that I love it. And so that's the new me. You know, because we have our phases just like our looks. Like I was really into film, like in photography when I was in film school, but that phase is over, right? And the clothes in that phase are over. And so that's how I feel like with Chialicious. I've entered this new phase. I'm a mother of two. I created business from ground up and people are receptive to it. And it's encouraged the evolution of a new gene. And it's made me really happy because now I can find where I fit in this new identity with being a mother of two. Like it just fits in with where I am in my life. And I think that might, contribute to the glow. It's like I love everything that's happening in my life because it's starting to fit this identity that I'm creating for myself and I'm embracing it.
Yeah, that makes total sense. What would you say Chialicious taught you?
I think it taught me to be more flexible with the rules. I think when people go into business, at least for me, you get scared because you don't know the rules and you feel like you have to go by the book because you don't have a guide. So it's easier to go by the book because you have nowhere to start. Going to Chialicious, I realized you don't, there's not like bending the rules, but you need to be flexible. You need to figure out what works, what doesn't work, and then keep working at it. Reaching the type of success I have, I don't think anything was a secret. I just am listening and I am open and I invite that type of conversation and I adjust. I think those are the keys. You have to learn to do that and adjust yourself.
Yeah. When you said something that I would love you to touch on more is like reaching the success that you have. What did that look like when you started realizing that Chialicious has potential?
When I realized it was more successful than I anticipated, it was when the demand was too high and I was getting a little depressed. I started going to the kitchen, making the demand and not setting boundaries for myself. When I got a moment to think about why I was getting depressed, I thought I'm like, I need and Kimberly is my sister who helped me, and so she helps give me perspective. Like, I need help. If I need help, that means my business is so successful that I can't produce it by myself. So that's when I started learning, like, I think this business is turning into a real business. Because remember when I started, I was in postpartum depression. I was just a mom needing an outlet. And once it started, the demand getting higher and higher, and I needed to put like boundaries in place, I think it's when I realized it was getting successful.
Going on 3 years of Chialicious, and I know right now is your break, but what if there's a mom out there that has been thinking about starting something that they're obsessed with, that they're passionate with? Is there anything you would want to share with them to help encourage them?
You have to surround yourself with people who will build you up. So I think one of the things to my success, if you listen to my story, is the people who were surrounding me when my business was being built. And those people had that positive impact and they were building me. They were like my Jiminy Cricket. They were whispering my ear and they're like, you can do this, positive affirmations. Now, if you can surround yourself with people like that, you can do anything. In addition to people helping me build my business, I've met wonderful business owners, other vendors who also built me up. And I just meet them and we connect and they help me in a way I don't even ask. And it's continued to build my business and it's continued to change my trajectory. Like every person who's willing to help me on the way just speeds up my business 5, 10, 20%. And that is through the connection of people and through the village that surrounds you. So that's my advice to other women is just make sure you are aware of the people who are surrounding you if you really need that little boost, that belief. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, that's great insight. And I think that's really good advice for anybody. What would you say like happy Jean looks like today?
I feel like it's being able to celebrate my wins. You know, like when I look at my numbers and it looks really great, it doesn't, I think I've learned to be like practice humility. It doesn't feel good to celebrate alone. I think some people are okay with that. And they're like, I don't care. Like I made this much money and people, I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't feel that good. Like I go around, I tell my husband, we high five like dorks. We will do it. I'm like, give me a high five. Yes, we did. And then I tell my sister who lives with me. I'm like, I just tell her and then I walk away. I'm like, that's nothing. I just wanted to tell you. She's like, okay. You know, like it feels good to be able to like share my wins with people. And like if I feel very impacted by them too. Like I guess the reason why I share with them is not to kind of like build myself up. I think I want to share it with them because it's kind of like where we won this together. I think that's how I feel when I tell them like we did this. Like I did this, but I'm sharing with you because when I win, you win. Which I told my sister, Kim, I'm like, just so you know, when I make that number, I'm gonna hire you. So be ready to move. Cause I feel like I'm ready to build my team and my village. And if I go up, I'm taking people up with me. That's how I feel. It's never this thing where I did it alone. And I practice that humility. The success is never mine alone. I always say that on my post too. I'm like, I'm nothing. Like my business success is nothing without my customers. Um, and like people like to give themselves credit for the product and the service. That's correct. But to keep it running, the customers really have to believe in the value. And when I win and my success, I bring it back to the people who built me up.
You've always been really good at celebrating your wins. Like you were the first person to teach me, like, Pang, you should celebrate that. And I'd be like, really? So I'm glad you're still doing that. How would you say throughout this whole journey, what has motherhood taught you? How has it changed you? How has it shaped you?
I think to be more understanding and forgiving. Everyone's journey is different in parenthood. I think mine in particular, because I didn't have a chance to be a mother right away like I wanted, and it took me 3 years. I took those 3 years to really like educate myself, read books, and meditate, and take care of my body, and manifest and be intentional about what kind of mother I wanted to be. And so that really shaped me in how I became a mother versus if I got pregnant right away, I would have been like, oh, that was easy. I can get pregnant like everyone else. But taking that time to be intentional as a mother and then going to business, I take that approach the same way as I do in business. I like to be calculated. I like to be intentional, and I like to make an educated gamble on stuff. Like how I told you about data. I and so I see that I approach all aspects that way. And I think it started with that being wanting to be a mother. Like that habit just became a part of my identity, and I approach business, people, family all equally the same with the same respect that each deserves when it has my attention.
Yeah, that's really cool, Jean. What about for new parents or current parents? Do you have any advice that you found helpful that others have given you, or is there anything that's happened throughout your experience that you just think has been super helpful?
I think there's only two things that come into mind. One's shallow and one's a little like take it as it goes. The first one is like you don't need everything for each kid that you have. You know, like my firstborn used all the nice expensive stuff and then my second one didn't want it. Things like that, like you gotta go based on what your kid wants. And the second advice and learning about this is like be the parent you need to be for each child because each child's different. Um, so I think catering to it's kind of difficult when you have more than two. It's already hard with two, but being able to cater to each child's needs really helps them develop them a little, gives them a healthy space to develop. That's the best way to say. Um, so that would be my advice is just to be present with your children and treat them accordingly to what their needs are, if possible. I can't really speak. I'm like, what if you have 4? What if you have 6? Like, just everyone's doing their best. But I think it's very important to treat each child as an individual. Because the way that it shapes them, right? As they grow up, they will be sharing different versions of you to each other. And I know that because I'm a sibling of 11. So the way, our versions of our parents is the same but different. So, it's important to just feel like make each child feel like they're important. I think that's my advice to other parents. I think that's why I'm careful, because I was from a family of 11. I think you can relate, Ping. It's like, you have to be very intentional that you feel each child feels they're loved in their way, right?
What about for newer moms? What's your advice for moms or soon to become moms?
I don't think there's anything that can truly prepare anyone for motherhood. We have all these like ideas and visions of what motherhood's going to be like for us individually. It's hard to say, to really give advice, like a general form of advice. But I think if I have to give a general form of advice to all women, I think is to prioritize your self-care and health after the baby. It is in our culture, as you know, it is prioritized, and there's a reason why. The time that you recover after a child, it is a trajectory of your self-care afterwards. And that's our belief in our culture, as you know, Ping. So I feel like when I meet other women who's not part of our culture, I do think like, oh my, you really have to take care of yourself after you have your baby, because your body is at one of its weakest points, right? And it needs to recover. And so my advice to women is make sure you can set time aside to prioritize it as much as you can, regardless if you have family or not. You really have to have a partner who's supportive and prioritize your self-care. Because whatever you do after you have your baby is going to affect and the trajectory of your health afterwards. And I think a lot of women can relate to, when they release you from the hospital, no one really cares and checks up on you. So you really have to take care of yourself, and you really have to advocate for yourself if something's wrong.
When you were talking about like right after giving birth, you were talking about in the Hmong culture, we believe in like a 30-day period of just rest, which I think a lot of Asian cultures do that. Or maybe, I don't know if all Asian cultures, but I know like the Chinese culture does that. And then our moms are really big on that, where you just eat a very specific diet, because we believe that like the body's healing and it needs that specific diet to give it its nutrients and everything. And then we're restricted from like leaving the house, doing certain activities. Like it's truly to let the body heal. Like I remember my mom and my dad talking about like they're not just worried about the healing within that first year. They're worried about the healing and the impacts of it like many, many years from now too. Like they're like, when you're an older woman, like how you took care of your body right after birth will impact you. And like it's wild to think about. It's hard to even imagine it, but like that's how they always paint it to me when we talk about postpartum. Were your parents the same way?
Yeah, no, it was exactly the same story of mine.
So you touched on this earlier. It takes a village to raise a kid. Who is your village? How big is your village, or how tiny is your village? Who helps you with your little ones?
I think for sure my husband, that's number one. And then my sisters. I have 8 of them, right? And I've had a rotation of 2 come live with me, and it's made a big difference, because if I need to go to the bathroom, if I need to shower, I just say, hey, can you just keep an eye on them? And every mom knows how hard it is to go to the bathroom and shower. You don't have them, you have to strap that baby in that bouncer while you shower. So like that's how it looks like. And my sister, one of my other sisters, lives down the street, so that's nice too. Like if the other sisters who have lived with me weren't there, then I just called the other sister and say, hey, can you watch them, or can I drop them off? And it gives me like 30 minutes to go to the grocery store to get what I need, right? So that's kind of how like my village looks like. It's mainly my sisters. I do imagine like if I moved out of state or I just didn't have them at all, you know, I wasn't born with them, how that life would look like. And it definitely, I think the lack of support really does add to depression. So I could see how that would affect my well-being, not having that support.
Is there anything else you want to share about your motherhood journey?
So I went through a really, I forgot I went through a really deep slump with both of my pregnancies. And I forgot that my recent one, even though the labor was smoother, I did go through a really dark place, and I did reach out to a specialist. She specialized in postpartum depression specifically with women who just after giving birth. So I was able to have 2 sessions with her to kind of just have an outlet, and I just want to share what I learned through my sessions with her, even though it was short. I was very self-aware, so it really helped move the conversations along, and I was very honest. So when I was going through a dark place, forgot. I think it was deep enough. So I'm willing to share this. I'm like, it was deep enough where I think I had thoughts of just not being here, not being alive, not being here. It was really deep. I'm like, I thought it was passing thoughts. It wasn't like I was going to act on it, which is what I told her. It's like, I wasn't like fantasizing how to leave this world, but I thought about like I would talk to myself like, and I totally forgot about this until we were talking about this. Like, I would think like, how would it look like if I wasn't here? It was thoughts like that. And she actually helped me work it out because I realized the answers to these are very simple, but when you work it in your head, it's more complicated. So in my head, I had these thoughts and I felt guilty. And so then I was clouded by my guilt, right? But when I was able to talk to her, we were able to figure out that it was lack of sleep, lack of support. And she's like, try these and tell me if it changes your thoughts. I did it. It changed my thoughts. I'm like, ladies, the lack of sleep is going to make you think of like a serial killer.
Oh,
And I did what she said. I slept more. I felt better. I'm like, okay, you guys, it's really simple. The problem is the access to it, right? Because it's tied to the support system that you have, right? If mom, like in our culture, right? If mom comes through, dad's off the hook, and mom's watching, it doesn't matter what who the support system is. It could just be your husband. Like if you're not, if you're not culturally like tied to having those traditions, and it's really just your husband, then it falls back on the husband. So having that break and that self-care, this is why stress is so important, because your mental health, your physical well-being, and the way you're able to nurture your child based on where you are mentally and physically, it's a big deal. If you can't be your best self and you give that version to your child, then your child will only know that version of you. And I've had these deep thoughts and reflections. I'm like, the answer is so simple, but the access isn't, right? And so I think that's one of the things that I want to kind of spread awareness about is don't be ashamed to reach out for help. Like professional help like I have helps clarify where these feelings are coming from. And don't be afraid to be firm with your boundaries with your partner, because your partner relies on you to take care of the child. Like you have to be firm because you are doing something for them. It's not that you're being firm and you don't want to do it. If that's how the narrative turns out, it's like, no, you need them to do that so you can do, like, they just need you to do 20% so you can come back and do that 90, do the 90, the 110, right? So that's my advice is don't be afraid to reach out for help, and be firm with your boundaries so you can show up 100%, because your child needs that version of you that's 100%.
thank you for sharing all of that, Jean. I feel like you definitely just even highlighted more the complexities of becoming a mother, right? Like not just the identity, but it's the mental health, it's the lack of sleep, it's the village, there's so much to becoming this mom that we get stuck in those slumps, and like it's really hard to think clearly and to even know how to help yourself. So I think what you're sharing is really key and important, and I hope it'll also just help others open up their eyes too if they feel that way. So Jean, if people wanted to reach out to you to learn more about Chialicious or just share more with learn more from your motherhood journey, like how can they reach out to you?
I would say usually the best route is through my website. It's chialicious.mke.com. You can send a message there or check me out on Instagram, which I haven't been active lately on my off season, but during my peak season, I'm active on there. And my Chialicious handle is at chialicious.mke, which MKE stands for Milwaukee.
And we'll make sure to include it below as well. But thank you for chatting with me, Jean. I really appreciate taking your time away from your family to share your journey with us. Please reach out to her if you want to connect and learn more from her experience. She's extremely kind and knowledgeable, as I'm sure you can all tell. Thank you for listening in. Let us know what you relate to the most from our conversations today. I'll see you soon on After the Baby Sleeps. Bye, everybody.